Welcome back to Let's Make a Game, a channel about making computer role-playing games using the free program Twine and the Sugarcube format for Twine. In this video, I would like to continue talking about my current project of coding the combat system for a viewer's game. In particular, I'd like to talk some more about the charge command and what the companions do if the player character gives them the charge command and they are successful in giving that order. So if you've been following this series, you would know that we've done giving the order and deciding whether the order succeeds or fails. We've done the situation where the companion doesn't have anyone to charge, even though they want to, meaning that all of the enemies are hovering and therefore out of range of hand-to-hand attacks. We've done the situation where the companion has someone to charge. In other words, there's an enemy that's too far away to attack hand-to-hand that they could attack hand-to-hand, and therefore they move. But we haven't yet done the situation where they actually do the hand-to-hand attack, and that's what I'm going to do in this video. So we have several new passages. Now, I did say in the last video that one of the things I had to do was sort out the layout, because the layout's pretty bad. I've just been putting new passages wherever there's space, and so they're sort of all over the place. I haven't yet done that. So we have companion, which is the general one to decide what the companion does, or it's the first place where we go when the companion is acting. Then we have charge, which is specifically to do with if they're under the charge order, and we've seen those already. We've also seen charge move, which of course is when they move. We haven't seen charge attack, so that's a new passage. We haven't seen charge attack 2, and if I move this, it's a bit more obvious. Charge attack 2 eventually leads to companion target, which is one that we have seen, but which now has slightly different code, and I'll explain that. And also companion default, which is the one that deals with the companion's default behavior when they either don't have an order or they can't sort of fulfill that charge order. And the other orders as we get to them, but at the moment the charge order is the only one we've coded. So I've needed to slightly change that one and that one, these two that we already had. We don't have any new variables this time, so let's start by looking at charge, and I'll zoom in. So this is stuff we've gone through before. We find the closest range, or whether we may find that there aren't any non-hovering enemies that the companion can charge. But let's get down to the case where there are. This is fairly simple. We say the nearest non-hovering enemy is Z range bands away, and if Z is greater than 1, that is out of the range of a hand-to-hand attack. So we have to, they have to move. So we go to charge move, and here's the new stuff. Otherwise, we go to charge attack. So if Z is less than or equal to 1, i.e. if it's 0 or 1, then that means that there is at least one enemy that they can attack, and so they will. All right, so let's look at charge attack. Now, there's quite a long note here that says that this code is more complicated than necessary. I could have done this a lot more easily because all weapons only have 1 or 2 attacks. So I could have just chosen the first attack and then looked at the second and seen whether it was possible to choose it. But I did it in a more complicated way, and the reason I did it in a more complicated way is that this more complicated way would work even if we changed the weapons so that some weapons had 3 attacks or 4 attacks. I don't know whether that's something that the person whose game this is interested in doing, but other people might want to take this code and do that. And it's always better to sort of have it so that you don't have to rewrite the code to add new features. So I've sort of over-engineered it or future-proofed it I've set it up so that the weapons can be expanded and it won't need any new code. So if you're wondering, if you're sort of thinking, well, gee, this seems like a quite convoluted way of doing it. Why don't you just sort of do it this way? Well, that's why. It's not for how it is. It's thinking about how it could be expanded. So here's what we do. We set Z equal to 4. Why do we set it equal to 4? Because that's a number that's higher than any range. The ranges are always 0, 1, or 2. So I've set Z to 4, just an arbitrary number that's higher than that. Could have gone with Z equals 100. Wouldn't have made any difference. We have a for loop that goes from 1 to this quite complicated bit of code here. WEA underscore OVR square bracket dollars weapon square bracket INI who underscore who, sorry, square bracket 2 and square bracket. Well, what does that mean? Well, let's look at the inside bit first. It's usually best when you want to understand sort of complicated bits of code, like complicated sort of nested references to arrays. It's usually best to start at the innermost one and work out. So let's look at weapon INI who, or INI underscore who. Okay, INI underscore who is the, well, in this case, the companion that is currently acting. It actually can refer to a player character or an enemy as well, but if we're on this page, it's going to refer to a companion. So if it equals 2, if this variable here equals 2, that means companion 2 is acting, and if it equals 1, it means companion 1 is acting. So we look at weapon square bracket INI underscore who. Weapon is an array that stores which weapon the player character and each companion are wielding, are currently holding. They may have other weapons that are sort of stored in their backpack or, whatever, that they're currently not using. We have to have a system for allowing that. At the moment, we don't. We just have this single weapon array. And everyone has a pistol. So actually, we sort of know what the answer is going to be, but we've set it up so that it will work when we add more code, different weapon options. So we look at weapon 2 if it's companion 2, weapon 1 if it's companion 1. And then we look at, and that will always give us a result of 7 at the moment, because 7 is the number for pistols, and we've just set it up so that everyone has a pistol. So we look at, so it'll look at something like this: WEA underscore OVR, which stands for weapon overview, 7 2. And in the future, when there's other weapons, it might be 3 2, 13, 12 2, whatever. So what is that gonna give us? Well, let's go to initialize and have a look. That is slot 0. That is slot 1, this text. That is slot 2, and it is a number, and it is the number of ways to attack with this weapon. So this for loop here will go from 1 to however many ways there are to attack with this weapon, which is currently only 1 or 2, but we could always add, another weapon with more attacks, or we could add attacks to an existing weapon. And for each of those, it'll do these 2 lines of code. First line of code, set x equals WEA underscore OVR square bracket, and we've got this dollars weapon square bracket INI underscore who square bracket again, square bracket 0 and square bracket plus quote space quote plus y. What does that mean? Well, we know what dollars weapon INI who is, so we're going to look at WEA underscore OVR, let's say 7 for a pistol, 0 plus the space plus y. Well, WEA underscore OVR something 0 is just the name of that weapon. So let me give you an example. Oops, wrong one. That's there it is, sorry. So in this case, pistol, flame spray, flamethrower, shotgun, etc., etc. So it's going to be something like the text pistol plus a space for that quote, space, quote, and then plus Y. Well, Y will be something like 1 or 2. So you might notice there that we're sort of mixing text and then a number. In some languages, some programming languages, you can't do that. You'd get an error. You can only manipulate text with text or numbers with numbers. Twine is quite fine with it. It just turns it all into text. So we have the text pistol, for example, or machine gun or flamethrower, whatever it is, space, then the number 2. If it has a mixed bag like that, it will just turn it into a text. It will treat the number as a character, which is what we want. So we get text. The first time it goes through, it'll be pistol 1, and the next time it'll be pistol 2. And we store that in X. And then we set Z equal to math.min, meaning the smaller of what we're going to have in these brackets. Z, so its existing value, which starts at 4, or WEA underscore ATT X1. Remember that X is that text, like pistol 1 or pistol 2. So what is slot 1 and what is WEA underscore ATT? Well, WEA underscore ATT stands for weapon attacks. We have WEA underscore OVR, which is all the characteristics of weapons that aren't different for different attacks, like the name of the weapon. And then we have WEA underscore ATT, which deals with all of the characteristics of weapons that are different in the different attacks, such as their ranges and what ammunition they consume. And when we look at slot 1 of that array, we can see that it is a number. Sorry, it's that one. It's a number. And specifically, it is the range of the attack. And it's always going to be 0, 1, or 2. So because Z starts at 4, the first time we go through, the smaller is always going to be this one, because it's always going to be 0, 1, or 2, and that's always going to be smaller than the initial value of 4. Note also that range is not in range bands. Like 0 means a range of 1, as in 0 in this array means a range of 1, 1 means a range of 3, and 2 means a range of 5. So we have to do some maths with this number, as you'll see later. But anyway, so once we've gone through this, we will have the shortest range for the weapon that the companion is currently using. And once we've done that, we go to charge attack 2. What do we do there? We choose an attack whose range is Z. In other words, we choose an attack whose range is this shortest available range. There might be more than one. That's why we're doing it. There's one weapon, I think, that has 2 attacks that are the same range. So this is why we do it this way. Again, it's probably more complicated than we need to do it. We could have done shorter code, simpler code with the weapons that we have, but I coded it for the idea that we can expand it and it will still work. So we choose a random number between 1 and this long bit of code. So let's see what that is. Well, again, we have weapon INI-WHO, so we've already talked about what that is. And it's WEA underscore OVR, so weapon overview, and it'll be something like 7, 2. And as we've seen before, that is the number of ways to attack with this weapon. So if there were 4 ways to attack with this weapon, Y would be a random number from 1 to 4. If there was only 1, Y would always be 1, and so on. So this is just saying pick a number from 1 to however many attacks the weapon has, because we're going to pick an attack at random. Then we set X equals WEA underscore OVR. Once again, weapon square bracket INI underscore WHO. 0 plus space plus Y. So this is very similar to code we've seen before. WEA underscore OVR, let's say 7, 0. that is text. So that is, for example, it'll be the text pistol plus quote space quote. So that just means put a space character in there. And then Y, the random number we picked. So let's say we pick 2 or 1. X will be a text variable, in this case, with a value something like that. Note that in this case, X is a string, i.e. it's a series of text characters. At other times, $X is a number, and that's fine. Again, in other programming languages, that's not how it works. Each variable has to have a type, and it has to keep to that type. Text has to always be text, and numbers have to always be numbers. And there's often other types of variables as well, but those are probably the main two. But in Twine, we can swap between the two quite freely. So we've set X to this text. Then we look at WEA underscore ATT X. So that'll be something like pistol 2, 1. Well, that is the range of the given attack, because we notice that in WEA underscore ATT, we don't use numbers in this, in the first sort of, what can I say, the first dimension that we're indexing. In every other array, it's like this. We have the array square bracket 1 end square bracket, then 2, then 3. In this case, we're using text. And the text is specifically the name of a weapon, a space, and then a number. And where are we? We look at weapon attack X1, that is the range. If the range of the chosen attack is greater than Z, which is the smallest available range for that weapon, well, then we've picked the wrong attack. And so what do we do then? We include charge attack 2. Well, this is charge attack 2, so it just means go to the top of the page, choose a different attack. But eventually we will choose an attack whose range is Z, and we'll end up down here. So we set Z2 equal to 1. Now I'll show you what that is. There's a comment here that says enemy must be within this range. What's going to happen here, you'll see this goes to companion target. Companion target is the passage where a companion picks a target, and they pick randomly, but if the distance between them and that target is too great, they will reject that choice and choose again. And I've changed the code slightly, as you'll see. And we have this variable Z2, which is the range within which the enemy must be to be taken as a choice that they're going to run with, if that makes sense. So we set it to 1. They must be within 0 or 1, because that's the range of a hand-to-hand attack. This means, by the way, that if there were enemies that were 0 away and 1 away, they'd be equally likely to hit the ones that are 1 away. And I don't know if that's what the person whose game this is wants. They might say, no, if there's 0 away and 1 away, they will only pick the ones that are 0 away. But anyway, that's what I've gone with. I'm sure they'll tell me if I have judged wrongly. But either way, pick someone who's 1 range band away. We print companion I and I who chooses the attack, whatever the attack is. So that will say something like companion 2 chooses the attack pistol whip, or something like that. This slot here has the names of the different types of attacks. So it's pistol whip or shoot for pistols, and we have similar ones for different weapons, and a couple of line breaks, and then we go to companion target. So in companion target, we have this new variable, which is that the target must be within this range, and the range is 1 if we came here from charge attack, and it's the maximum range of the weapon if we come from companion default, which is the default behavior of the companion. And we see that. I won't go through every line here because we've done it all already, but the only difference is this used to be a calculation of the maximum range of the weapon, and instead it's Z2. So we pick, all we're doing here is picking an enemy, we're finding how far away they are, we're storing that in $Y, and if Y is greater than Z2, if we've picked an enemy that's further away than we want, then we include companion target, which just means go back to the top of the page and choose again. So eventually we will pick an enemy that is 0 or 1 range bands away, and then we'll go on with the attack. And it will work exactly the same as if we were doing the default behavior, because it's actually the same passages. We've just arrived from a different place. And because I made that slight change with Z2, I had to make a slight change in companion default, and that is that before we go to companion target, we set Z2 equal to the maximum range of the weapon. And this is where we have to do that maths that I talked about. We multiply the number that we've got by 2 and add 1. So 0 will become 1, 1 will become 3, and 2 will become 5, because those are the 3 ranges that weapons can have in this game. And so that, once we've done that, it just works exactly the same. The attack is exactly the same. The damage works exactly the same. At the end of the action, they either get another action or it's the end of their turn. Then the next character acts, or it's the end, every character's acted and we roll initiative again. And that is the charge attack. So I still have to sort out, this is a real mess. Everything's just all over the place. I mean, you can see that from this. It goes sort of from here, down to here, down to here, and down to here, just because that's just where space was available. So I need to sort that out. And once we've done that, we can start looking at the other orders, because of course there are 4 orders. So that's what we'll be doing next time. But for now, I hope that was useful or interesting to at least some of you, and I hope you will tune in next time.